Thanks for joining us today. Um, my name is Ken Edwards. I am the Sustainability Officer for City of Delray Beach. We are really happy to get input as we're developing the Climate Action Plan. And there will be time at the end of the session today for questions, and there's a QR code that will take you to a place where you can submit comments also. So today is the next step in the development of our Climate Action Plan. It has been a bit of work to get to this point. We've gotten very valuable input, and I will talk a little bit about the background coming up. The importance of a climate action plan is that we are seeing changes in the climate. Some of those are small, some of them are major, but there's things that we can do. And we are at this stage now where we're actually looking to develop strategies. This is in a process leading up to April, where we will be presenting a draft climate action plan, including strategies to the commission. So really looking forward to that. On the screen here, you see a logo that was developed in-house. Dittmar Ingram and Chris Chittister did some great work on this, and we'll be using it as we go forward, and hopefully with the direction of the commission to help illustrate and guide what kinds of projects we are working on. So the comprehensive plan for the city, Always Delray, has multiple places where it refers to climate action and a few places where it specifically mentions development of a climate action plan, because having a guide to prioritize and set due dates, or at least as guidelines, is important, because there's a lot that needs to be done. So specifically in the conservation, sustainability, and resilience section policy, CSR 712, it refers to development of a climate action plan. Working on this for about 2 years. The Green Implementation Advancement Board, one of the city boards that's appointed by the commission, submitted memos regarding a climate action plan and also made presentations to the commission. We developed a greenhouse gas inventory, which is important because reducing greenhouse gases is one of the main end goals of a climate action plan. My office, the Office of Sustainability and Resilience, Chris Chittister works with me in that section. We made presentations to commission, also during outreach events, to really engage with the community and explain what a climate action plan is and what it would entail. And then there was a resolution in November of 2023 that the commission adopted, adopting the Regional Climate Action Plan that was written by the Southeast Florida Regional Climate Change Compact. And one of the specific items in that plan is a goal to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2030, which is just right around the corner. So last year, from April until September, we opened up a climate action planning survey that was based on a lot of research that we did to put those items together. We got more than 350 responses, and more than 80% of the responses indicated they believed a climate action plan addressing certain key issues was an important thing for the city to do. That really is an overwhelming response and overwhelmingly positive support for this. And the section topics, we're going to walk through those one at a time, along with the top responses that we got during the survey. And we've done a lot of work internally and working with our city partners to develop strategies. That really is the focus of this step. Guiding principles for the climate action plan. So on the last slide, you saw the 6 sections of the plan. Rather than having a separate section to address equity and outreach, we are embedding considerations of equity and outreach in all of the sections, in all of the issues, and all of the strategies that we will work on. And so you may ask, well, what does that mean? first of all, what is equity when it comes to climate change? And so I'll give you a couple of examples there. With the increasing temperatures, those workers that are outdoors most of the time are going to be exposed to higher temperatures on more days of the year or more hours. And especially in the middle of the summer, when you're talking about feel-like temperatures that are over 100 degrees, that can really have an effect on health, especially when you consider uh, over a period of years working out in those conditions on every day. So it can be really important to a certain sector of the workforce. Also, from an economic standpoint, with more warm days and uh, more hours of the day at higher temperatures, that can add up to a lot of money devoted to electricity, and especially for lower income people, that can be a larger proportion of the income that they have. So there are a lot of other examples, and as we go through our strategies, we want to be mindful in each of those of what is the sector of the community that's disproportionately affected by climate change. Outreach also is something that is virtually a part of everything that we do also. Understanding how the community views issues, um, how the community views the projects that we're working on, getting feedback on how we are doing and prioritizing is extremely important. So rather than having a separate section, again, outreach is going to be something, and I'll give some examples today as we walk through. Outreach will be a major part of a lot of the different strategies that we work on. Okay, so uh, now we're launching into the actual climate action plan section and the strategies. This should look familiar to you. Energy built environment was one of the 6 sections of the survey and would be one of the sections of the climate action plan if the commission so directs us to develop further. And what you see in the underlined text are the top responses in the survey. Underneath that are the strategies that really we're looking to present today and hopefully get comments back on. Which of these are good, which of these maybe not so good, what did we miss, or any kinds of input that we can get to the community to make this better. So the top response in energy built environment was energy efficiency of city facilities, and beneath that we worked with internal staff and our close city partners like the Downtown Development Authority, Chamber of Commerce, the Delray Beach Historical Society, and the CRA, and others also to develop these strategies. The first one there is Energy Savings Performance Contracting, or ESPC. This is a contract where we agreement with an expert in energy management, and they take a look at city facilities and equipment to show us how, without any upfront money, we could get into a contract that would be 15 to 20-year period. We would get upgrades to reduce our electricity usage, and that saved money would actually pay for the contract. So very wide ranging. Another strategy is electrical usage analysis. That actually would be a first step in the ESPC process, but even exclusive of going the ESPC route. Looking at energy usage can be an indicator of where we can have energy savings. And benchmarking is a way of looking at your energy usage and comparing to other similar buildings, again, to give an indication of where we could focus attention to save energy. Retrofits, thermostats, controllers, LED lighting, again, mechanisms for saving energy, that could be a part of the ESPC also, but something that we could do internally also. Building operations and training of maintenance staff is important for the ongoing use of electricity, and something that we have seen certainly many reports on if you don't have that ongoing attention to operations, then you can lose your energy savings. And looking at our capital improvement plan, the new buildings that we are putting in place and other major purchases should have an eye to saving energy and saving money, of course, and making the community more resilient. So the next highest response was community energy efficiency in the residential and business sector. Strategies there are FPL dashboard and gaining information from FPL, making that information easy to obtain and interpret is a great opportunity for outreach also. When people can see, here's how much electricity I'm using, money I'm spending, here are ways that I can save money, then that's something that typically will move people and businesses in that direction. And again, benchmarking that can apply to a home or a business when you see, hey, I'm spending a lot more money on a similar home compared to my neighbor or compared to another competitor's business, then that's good information. Our green building ordinance addresses new buildings. We can continue to look at refining that green building ordinance to address new buildings, but we also need to look at our existing buildings and whether it's voluntary and an outreach measure or some kind of change to the green building ordinance would be a strategy. Again, building operations and training is important in the residential and business sector. A strategy could be looking at grants and other kinds of incentives, rebate programs. There is money available, or there has been in the past through Department of Energy at the state and federal level, so we could develop those kinds of programs. Also, installing solar is a way of reducing the energy use, at least bought through the electrical company, and there have been incentives for that in the past also. And that's a resilience measure also. If solar is installed on a home or a business along with a battery system, then they can have electricity when the grid goes down. All right, continuing in the energy built environment, the renewable energy and storage at city facilities. This would focus a lot on solar for the most part, and could be a part of ESPC. It's also important to consider in our emergency and recovery planning. Battery storage along with the solar can extend the time into the night when solar electricity generated by solar can be used. Looking at our properties and encouraging people in the city and providing the tools so that residences and business can look at how much solar can be generated at their site is another strategy. And again, looking at our capital improvement plan and what structures, not just buildings, but even pump stations and parking areas and that kind of thing, where we could install alternative energy and solar. We also, along with those top responses, there were several comments that we received that weren't just a vote for a specific item that we had in the survey. And there were several comments that addressed development, that there should be more control on development and that we should promote density. One example of the way it can save energy is in making transportation easier, reducing the number of vehicles, but also infrastructure installation for electricity and water and roads is lessened when the distribution system goes to more people in a certain area. So we are looking at comments again today. Your comments will be reviewed and incorporated as best as we can. There were several comments about gas-powered lawn equipment and looking at the amount of pollution that's put out by lawn equipment is very high compared to internal combustion engines and vehicles that have a lot of controls on them. So that was an important comment. And green roofs also would be another way of saving energy. Okay, another section in the survey and what would be a section in climate action plan is green infrastructure and natural environment. The top response in the survey was dune restoration. We have done, the city of Delray Beach has done some great work on the dune, and we have a very healthy dune compared to a lot of other places. And that's important because it provides protection for the sand that's on the beach, at least up to the point where those plants their roots hold a lot of sand and provide a lot of protection for properties that are more inland. So having a management plan, and there is a plan that has already been started following that, funding it can be a very good strategy for restoring our dune, which is in great shape, restoring it even further. Also reaching out to our partners at our universities. There are dozens or hundreds of research projects that could be beneficial to students at FAU, FIU, and other universities in the area. And at the same time, if we reach out and make these relationships, then we would learn more about the functioning of our system and how we could better manage it. Tree planting program was the next highest response. Again, it's good to see that some of the highest responses are things that we are doing already, along with our dune management plan. We have a healthy tree planting program. We are focusing on our tree drop-off aspect of that because we can get more trees into the lower canopy area. Considerations of the right tree in the right place is something through outreach that we can really promote, along with considering it in our planting plan. Because even though I oversee tree planting, there are areas where trees should not be planted, where there are utilities, where there are conflicting uses. Not every place that looks, just from a cursory view, is a good place to put in a tree. On the other hand, where we have a great location in a large area, we should put in a large canopy tree as much as we can. So looking at getting the right tree in the right place can really promote tree planting in a smart way. Having a diversity of species in our tree planting program provides for a more resilient canopy. More different kinds of species you have, they're resistant to diseases. They also provide more habitat for pollinators and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of benefit to having a diversity of species, looking at environmental function and not just canopy. Tree maintenance is very important because the best way to increase your tree canopy is to take care of the trees that you already have. And trees are dynamic. They are not a static kind of condition. They can need some care, some pruning, or fertilizer, or in some cases, if a tree is diseased, it would need to be taken out so that it doesn't damage other canopy in the area. So having a focus on tree maintenance can be a good strategy associated with tree planting and canopy increase. Protection of our existing trees is another way to grow our canopy. That can be done through the ordinance and adding on additional protections, enforcing the protections that are already in place. A suggestion that we've heard many times is to increase protections for specimen trees, or some people refer to them as champion or legacy trees. Those would be the largest, best examples of a species of trees in the community. Hiring a city arborist or forester would be a way, because there are many staff in the city that deal with tree maintenance and tree planting across different departments. They have major responsibilities and everyone is very busy. Hiring a forester or an arborist that works across departments, looking at all of the issues and ensuring communication occurs. And best management would be a good way to protect trees and increase canopy. And addressing invasive species. Some trees come in, such as Brazilian pepper, carrot wood, and they will crowd out habitat for other native, more beneficial trees. So management of invasive species can create better places and more places for trees to be planted. All right. Parks habitat restoration is another item got a lot of support, and we are doing parks restoration activities already. So again, encouraging to hear that this is important to the community, developing specific plans for individual parks, and looking at linkages between these different natural areas. For example, Orchard View Park is very close to the County Delray Oaks Park, and that is a guide to an opportunity for outreach, looking at properties that are in between these natural areas and park areas that the city and other governmental places are maintaining. We can plant and do outreach with the community to help connect those together and even increase the environmental functions at those sites. The city, in cooperation with other partners, has installed pocket refuges and pollinator gardens. We can do training with staff on herbicide application that can make much more cost-effective and time-effective our management of invasive species and legislative priorities. There is a bill in the Florida legislature that has been filed for this year that addresses green infrastructure. So keeping an eye on that and gaining support would be helpful. Last item in green infrastructure is coral reef restoration. And again, there is a group that has been formed to support coral restoration. A lot of people that I talk with are not aware that there is a reef system off of Delray Beach, and it certainly is smaller than some other areas, but it's a very healthy system. And whereas in the Florida Keys, the loss of coral has been tremendous, leaving just a few percentage of the cover that there was 30 years ago, there's an opportunity for planting hard coral species here locally and addressing what is a real threat to the coral reef system in other areas. There are outplanting projects and monitoring opportunities. Even the installation of mooring balls can help with research in the area, and also bring attention because people can access on dive trips, which can be an economic factor. Okay, the next section to address would be water issues, and the top response in the water area was enhance stormwater system to manage extreme rainfall events. And hopefully everyone has seen on the news the kinds of rain events, 1,000-year rain events that have happened much more frequently than in the past, which leads to flooding in areas where it hasn't happened before. This is something that we can expect to continue, and the frequency of heavy storms continue. So what can we do to make our community more resilient to these, be able to be a good place to live, where you can get to work and businesses and quality of life can continue. So strategies in that area, swale systems, which is the area near a road that is at a little bit lower grade than the road itself. So the water runs off and has the ability to percolate into the ground, as opposed to having an increased grade on a property. It's a very effective strategy and a cost-effective strategy too, especially if the whole community is involved in that. So that's an opportunity for outreach. Doing outreach on permeable surfaces. So one of the concerns with having more concrete and asphalt is that it, again, reduces the area of ground where water can infiltrate and not cause flooding. Stormwater master plan revision is in the works, and so support from the community for having a very detailed stormwater master plan would be a way of focusing attention and moving on more projects. having a focus on tidal or sunny day flooding, because as sea level rise comes up, there's less of an ability for water when it gets to the coast to be able to run off. So we want to keep um, those tides from washing in. A MS4 system is areas that are managed by the city, and there is a permit for those. That is a widespread system, and so looking at how that system functions and where we might be able to enhance it more is important. And NPDES permit is a part of those stormwater systems that discharge to surface water. So looking at water quality components, protecting from erosion, fertilizer ordinance, all of those are important as stormwater can carry those components into surface waters when they discharge. All right, the next issue is water use efficiency and conservation program and strategies there. Our continuous water audits. So internally as a city looking at water use occurs and addressing when we see changes or working with our high usage customers to see how they might be able to conserve water. We have a watering ordinance and enforcing that and doing outreach so the community understands why it's important only to water at certain times. And there certainly are barriers to that. A lot of watering occurs in the middle of the night, so outreach would be very key there. ESPC is a part of water also because water is heavy. It takes a lot of electricity to pump it, and whether you're looking at pumping from a well to the treatment plant, through the plant, out through the distribution system, then pumping that wastewater back to a plant. A lot of electricity can be conserved when we conserve water. Fixture rebate programs, and that can be funded by grants, also through other governmental entities. The EPA and Water Management District have support that they can give on how to run conservation programs, and sometimes they have grants. You may have seen driving through the city at times, water being flushed out of water hydrants. That is a maintenance program designed to improve water quality. And I know that there have many comments about the quality of water in the city. Well, that helps to address because as water sits in a distribution line for a period of time, the chemistry can change. The chlorine will go away, and it can change in character so that it has more of an odor and more of color and also precipitate out. So looking at how we are maintaining and even looking at looping lines, there are some strategies to reduce maintenance flushing. Also increasing our reuse system because there is a mandate at the state level that we reuse our water, and using it for irrigation rather than using our precious potable water for irrigation would be another strategy. Lastly, in the water category, hardening of water-related infrastructure. So this means that when there are impacts associated with climate change, so strong storms, flooding especially, having our facilities so that they will run, so that important infrastructure is protected from flooding, so that it has electricity that goes to it, even so that pipes in the distribution and collection system do not have trees planted close to them or other kinds of issues that storms could impact. And that would be looking at all of our different water-related infrastructure, whether it's treatment, distribution, collection. Also, alternative energy would be something to look at here. Aquifer protection is important, especially over the long term as sea level rise continues and there is saltwater intrusion that occurs. Drinking water for Delray and most other communities in South Florida comes from groundwater. So we could even put together a strategy where stormwater is routed into locations where it helps create a barrier from saltwater intrusion and helps replenish our drinking water wells. And a maintenance plan. We have a lot of infrastructure, so having a plan that has an inventory of all of that equipment and ensuring that we are looking at that, replacing it on a proper schedule can ensure that we have a more resilient community, and especially when we have those threats from climate change like storms and floods. Okay, the next section is waste, and the top response in that area was waste reduction, which, um, I know I have talked a lot so far. We have a little bit further to go, but the responses that we got to the survey really were very wise, and it was heartening to be able to see that the community understood the types of things that we needed to do. So in the waste area, reducing the amount of waste that we generate. I mean, go right to the source rather than spending money on disposing. Consider how we might avoid generating the waste to begin with is important. And actually, the third highest response in the survey was environmentally preferred uh, purchasing per program. So we thought that it would be good to condense and move that up as a top strategy under waste reduction, and environmentally preferred purchasing can involve city policies, development of a manual so the city is an example to the community. Again, this is an opportunity for outreach, especially if we are doing things that can be adopted by other residents and businesses easily. Addressing single-use plastics. And this is important because plastics are becoming not just an environmental hazard, but a health hazard to people in the community. More research is finding that the ingestion of plastics is happening to the extent that people in the United States have about a credit card of plastic in their bodies at any one time. And research is showing linkage to cancer also. So reducing that waste to begin with so that it doesn't get out in the environment and we are exposed and ingested can be important. Material declarations are an important part of green buildings. This is a way to ensure that the materials that are purchased for buildings are more conservation minded, but also from other kinds of products in everyday life. People can use those material declarations to see what is in the things that they are buying. We can look at partners and special events as ways of moving forward, especially when large amounts of waste are generated. So special events and working with the Solid Waste Authority to make them recycle right events is one way to move forward. There's a lot of logistics, and there can be cost in putting out containers, picking up containers, and having those taken to places where they can be recycled. So having a subset of those events would be an important strategy. And working with our great partners here in the city, like the DDA, Old School Square, the Green Market, the CRA, Cocoa Market, and schools. So pick out some examples where there is a good bit of waste generated, and we can develop strategies that may be useful in the broader community. We can look at the straw ordinance and try to broaden that out, because it's really not about just straws. It is more single-use plastics, microplastics I've talked about. This is a very important outreach tool because it brings it home to everyday life. Why is it important for me to avoid plastics and reduce the waste that I generate? Adopt a Street, again, is a outreach mechanism to get people engaged and to help the community. And even in Europe, they have used artistic large containers as receptacle areas for people to put waste or recyclables into. Next up was expanding the city's recycling program, specifically on multifamily and commercial kinds of sites. It's important to understand, and these are outreach topics, that the city has an agreement for waste pickup with Waste Management. That agreement addresses multifamily facilities, and multifamily places are required to have an area where collection containers can be placed. But not every multifamily has those uh, kinds of containers, nor do they work with their communities that they be used. So that would be an opportunity to increase recycling. Commercial sites, on the other hand, are not addressed in the city's current agreement, other than to say that commercial operations can make their own agreement with a contractor for pickup. So that can entail a cost, and the city may even be able to help organize commercial groups that want to work together so that that cost is decreased, or focus on certain portions of the recycling stream, like cardboard. Paper products has more of a commodity value. So there are some things that we might be able to work on there, but it would have to be a focused kind of plan, working with that part of the community. Um, Reducing and reusing strategies uh, before we even get to recycling is important. So a way to reduce the cost associated with recycling and waste pickup is to not generate waste to begin with. And again, outreach is very important. Some additional topics are for people to understand. In Palm Beach County, um, the only thing that goes to the landfill is the ash that comes out of the waste to energy plant. And to some people, that may be a surprise. So our waste is picked up. We have trash and garbage in a container. We have recycling in other containers. It's dual stream. The trash goes to a completely different facility than the recycling trucks do. And the waste to energy plant that the trash is taken to, that actually generates electricity for about 40,000 homes. The dual stream recycling is set up because the system that we have for sorting materials is suited to that kind of separated stream, paper products separate from others. So there's reasons why we don't have a single stream like some other places have had, and to switch over would be a cost. So these are great topics for outreach, so that people understand why we have what we have, and how to make it better. And I mentioned the awareness of environmentally preferred products. We can use that as a strategy underneath waste reduction. Again, great outreach topics. So in the other category, again, this was not something that we had in the survey, but we had multiple comments about composting. And this, again, was very intuitive in the community. Food products and even waste from our yards is a source of greenhouse gases as it decays, especially food and the methane that it generates. So composting could be a very important strategy, but the Solid Waste Authority, which was created by Palm Beach County, has an interest in any materials that are put out on the curb. And with their authority over the city, any of the material that is set out for pickup by Waste Management has to go to the Solid Waste Authority. So the city's ability to address composting through a program and pickup would be limited, but we can do outreach. We can help communities or businesses that want to set up their own composting, and we could work with Solid Waste Authority to address this very important issue also. Okay, we saved the best for last. Transportation. Transportation is the largest generator of greenhouse gases as determined by our greenhouse gas inventory. Close to 60% of the greenhouse gases that are generated come from transportation. And it is a very large issue. It affects all of us, and a lot of people and entities that are working on this issue. So the first item as far as responses went to the survey was a multimodal kind of transportation. And this refers to many different ways of getting around in the community. So that would include everything from walking to high-speed rail kind of system. But this would have to be broken down and looked at different components for different kinds of uses in different kinds of areas. So the kinds of strategies and tools that we have to go forward. The city has written a bike and pedestrian master plan that has certain types of infrastructure for different areas of the city. You've probably seen already being installed along Germantown Road and in the Lindell area, some of those. So portions of that, looking at bike lanes and safety is really a huge portion of increasing the biking and pedestrian network. So increasing that kind of ability to get around is an important part. Also looking at freebie shuttles, trolleys, and tri-rails. These are components that have been used or are being used in the city. Can we enhance them even more? Can we capitalize on having a tri-rail station stop in the city of Delray Beach that ties us in with people that live in other areas, brings in people that want to frequent our businesses and helps people get to work? Well, they would need a way to get from the tri-rail station to other locations in the city. Considering that there are fixed schedules for some buses and trains, but there also will be times when there's not so much of a demand, and having on-demand services or different kinds of transportation, that's where freebie or a Uber might be effective. And looking at when we have those planned but irregular, very high traffic or transportation needs for special event access. We can also look at commuting workers to give us an indication of what would be useful, what people would use when it comes to transportation. And that way we could engage with businesses also so that we could be told this is what we want. Demand-based parking fees in some areas of the country, this has not been a real popular topic, but again, it's a strategy that we could look at, and increasing prices when we have special events or more demand in order to encourage people to use alternative modes might be a way. So the next highest response on the survey was regional public transportation. And this certainly addresses multimodal transportation, but really the focus would be more in tie-ins outside of the city of Delray Beach. So you can look at multimodal as more internal, but also looking at how we would tie in with our highways and with our buses and with our rail systems. And there are some major partners and ongoing initiatives in this area. So first off, looking at the Palm Beach Transportation Planning Agency, plans that they already have in place and funding priorities that they already have in place is important. Looking at PalmTran and their bus schedules is important. Looking at other city partners and how they are going about addressing transportation needs can give us some real clues. So WPB Go, and also the Florida DOT, they have funding and they have priorities. So being sure that we are tied in with those and addressing opportunities, speaking up when there's an opportunity. For example, there is a request for proposals or a request for qualification that's out right now by Palm Beach County for a countywide transportation master plan. And that's definitely something that City of Delray Beach should be engaged with. And even individual residents speak up and show that there is interest in having an efficient, resilient, and energy efficient transportation system. Bike and pedestrian master plan that I mentioned would be a part of this, because we want to be sure that as we are increasing the ability for people to walk and bike around that we tie in to our regional transportation. So looking at our rail and bus connectivity, maybe some areas to focus on that would give the most benefit to the most people. Look at our high density areas, high transportation needs and parking needs on Atlantic Avenue, Congress Boulevard, and other major centers. The last item in transportation was increasing fuel efficiency of the city fleet. And really that would start with an analysis so that we identify the opportunities. There are going to be some vehicles that there is not a viable option out there that would serve our needs, and we don't want to reduce our level of service and really create a problem and not fix our transportation energy usage problem. So analyzing where we would have vehicles that could be replaced with a hybrid or an electric type. Another part of that plan would be installing the electric infrastructure, because have the electric infrastructure in place on the day that the vehicles come in-house. It's most cost effective. Where is the electrical infrastructure to be able to install chargers, because they do pull a good bit of electricity? Are those areas close to the offices that will use more efficient vehicles? There's a lot of planning that can go into that. So that's a good first strategy. Also, low-speed vehicles. The Office of Sustainability and Resilience purchased a LSV. That's basically a street legal golf cart, and we use it all the time. So they can be very easy to park. They can be charged off a 120 outlet as opposed to some other more complicated, higher voltage. So that's a possibility there also. Okay, so the last item of the 6 sections was climate resilience, and we are looking at addressing these priorities because they overlap in all of the other sections. So pointing out that the tree planting program has benefit to address extreme heat as a climate resilience issue. Canopy can actually reduce the temperature in an area like 5 degrees and encourage people to get out more during warmer weather. It's just more comfortable. So people are healthier. And if they're placed in a place where it shades a building, then it can save electricity also. Enhancing the stormwater system, we talked a good bit about, but being able to handle that stormwater makes us more resilient when we have those very, very heavy rainfalls. People can get to work, get to school. Dune restoration is a climate resilience benefit, because that dune provides more protection than anything that we could afford to build it as a hard structure. Plus, it's an economic benefit too. Our beach is a tremendous part of our economy, and the dune helps to protect that and is a part of that system. And coral reef restoration is a much longer term kind of benefit, but we can look at that as an economic driver and a driver of technology jobs and research. So working with our partners in the near term, even though that would be a long-term kind of a strategy, has a tremendous climate resilience benefit. So as we work through the other strategies in some of the other sections, we're going to highlight how those strategies address climate resilience and climate impacts. So with that, I thank you very much for joining us today. I know that was a lot to go through, but we're really happy with all of the responses that we got to the survey. We worked really hard with department staff and our city partners to come up with all the strategies that we could think of. But I'm sure that there are more, and we really hope that the community will engage with us as we prepare to go to commission in April with a draft climate action plan. Let us know what you think of this presentation and the strategies. That QR code will take you to a page where you can see the presentation again, and also where you can submit comments to us. And all of them will be looked at and considered. So really thank you for your time today, and we'll open it up for questions.